The jungle was not silent. Strange birds screamed in the high black trees, and glowing insects moved like tiny stars between the leaves. The ground was wet and heavy, and every step made a sound that did not belong to this world. The human walked carefully. His name was Captain John Hale, but here names did not matter. He was lost. His small ship had crashed 3 days ago. No radio, no map, no signal. Only this endless alien forest. He carried a broken rifle and a small knife. Food was almost gone. Thirst followed him like a shadow. Still he moved forward. He had one hope. Maybe somewhere there were people or something like people that could help. Suddenly he froze. A sound cut through the forest like fire. A scream, not an animal cry, not the growl of the jungle. This was different. Human, or something very close to human. John's heart jumped. He ran toward the sound, pushing branches, sliding over roots. The scream came again, high and sharp. Fear, pain. Then he saw her. A young woman lay trapped under a fallen tree. The trunk was heavy, pressing her leg into the ground. She wore strange silver clothes, shining faintly even in the dark forest. Her skin was pale, almost glowing, and her hair spread around her like black water. Her eyes, wide with fear, looked straight at him. But she was not alone. From the shadows came shapes. 6-legged beasts with long teeth and hungry eyes. They circled slowly, moving closer to her body. Their growls shook the air. John did not think. He threw a rock at the nearest beast. It screamed and turned toward him. The others followed, snarling, ready to tear him apart. He pulled his knife. His rifle had only one bullet left, and he saved it for the worst moment. The first beast jumped. John rolled aside and stabbed. The knife cut its neck, black blood spilling onto the ground. The other creatures attacked. One scratched his arm. Another bit his shoulder. Pain burned through him, but he fought like a cornered wolf. He used everything: rocks, branches, speed, and fury. He was weaker than them, but he was smarter. When two beasts rushed together, he dodged, and they slammed into each other. When one opened its jaws, he pushed the broken rifle barrel inside, blocking the bite, then stabbed again. Minutes passed like hours. At last the beast fled, howling back into the dark trees. The ground was covered in blood and broken leaves. John fell to his knees, gasping for breath. The woman was still there, trapped, eyes wide, watching. He dragged himself to her side. The tree was huge. He pushed once, nothing. He pushed again, using all his strength, shouting with effort. Slowly the trunk shifted. With one final cry, he rolled it aside. The woman pulled her leg free. She looked at him with shock, with something more than fear. Her lips moved, but he did not understand the words. The language was strange, flowing like music. He shook his head. "I don't understand." Still, she stared at him, breathing hard, as if she could not believe what had just happened. Before John could speak again, the forest changed. Lights appeared. Dozens of glowing orbs floated through the trees, moving closer. At first he thought they were fireflies, but then he saw the shapes behind them, tall figures in armor, carrying long spears of shining crystal. Their eyes glowed faintly. Their movements were silent, disciplined, like soldiers. They surrounded him in a circle. He raised his knife, ready for another fight, though he knew he could not win. The woman suddenly spoke to them in her musical language. Her voice was strong now, commanding. The soldiers lowered their spears slightly, but their eyes stayed on John. Then they began to chant. Though powerful words, a rhythm, a song. John felt the air grow heavy. He did not understand the meaning, but he felt the weight of it. The soldiers looked at him with strange respect and also with judgment. The woman stepped closer. She touched his arm gently, almost like a mark of choice. Then she spoke in slow, broken words, trying to reach him. "You saved me." Her accent was strange, but the meaning was clear. John nodded. "Yes, I saved you." Her eyes locked with his. "Then you marry me." John's breath stopped. He thought he had heard wrong. He looked around at the soldiers, at their glowing eyes, at their serious faces. They kept chanting, the rhythm stronger now. "What? No. No, I don't," he started to say. But the circle of warriors closed tighter. Their chant grew louder. The woman's gaze did not move from him. John felt his stomach twist. He had saved her life. But now he realized he had stepped into something much bigger. Something he did not understand. The jungle was silent again except for the chant, and Captain John Hale, lost human soldier, stood at the center of it, unknowingly bound by an alien law. The night was long, and Captain John Hale could not sleep. The alien warriors had marched him and the strange woman through the forest, their glowing orbs lighting the way like stars pulled down to earth. They said nothing to him, but their chanting still echoed in his ears. The princess, at least he thought she was a princess, walked beside him. Her leg was weak from the fallen tree, but the warriors carried her gently as if she was more than flesh, as if she was sacred. She did not look at him often, but when she did, her eyes held both curiosity and destiny. At last they reached a city. John stopped, breath taken away. The trees opened, and before him rose towers of crystal and stone. They glowed with soft blue fire, stretching into the sky like frozen lightning. Bridges of light connected them. Strange birds circled high above, their wings shining silver in the moon. He had seen many worlds during his years as a soldier, but never this. The warriors led him into the heart of the city, through wide gates carved with symbols he could not read. Alien faces stared from every corner, men, women, and children. Their skin shimmered faintly like the woman's, glowing softly in the dark. They whispered as he passed, voices rising in awe and suspicion. Finally, they reached a great hall. It was vast, built of crystal walls that bent the light into colors. At the far end sat a woman older than the stars. Her crown glowed with silver fire, and her eyes were sharp as blades. She was the queen. The warriors bowed. John stood awkwardly, holding his broken rifle, dirt and blood covering his uniform. He felt like a beggar standing in a palace. The queen's voice cut through the hall like thunder, though her language was alien. The princess spoke in reply, pointing to John, telling the story. He caught only fragments, but he understood one thing. They were speaking about him. The queen rose from her throne. Her gaze pierced him. Then, in slow, careful words, she spoke in his tongue. You saved her life. John nodded, surprised she knew his language at all. Yes, I couldn't just leave her. The queen's face was unreadable. Then you are bound. Bound to what? The princess stepped forward, her face calm but her eyes intense. She spoke the words slowly, carefully. To me, John blinked. Wait, what? The queen raised her hand, silencing the whispers in the hall. Her voice rolled like thunder again. It is our oldest law, written before memory. If one saves the life of the royal blood, that life is forever tied. You saved her. Now you belong to her. John's mouth went dry. You mean marriage? That's insane. I was just trying to help. The hall erupted in voices, some angry, some laughing, some chanting. The queen lifted her hand and silence returned. You do not understand, she said coldly. This is not choice. This is law. To break it is death. John's heart hammered in his chest. Death for saving someone? He looked at the princess, hoping for mercy. But she only stared at him, unreadable, as if she too was trapped by the law. He raised his hands, desperate. I don't belong here. I don't even know your people. I don't even know her name. The princess stepped closer, her voice soft. My name is Arya. She touched her chest, then his. And now your life and mine are one. John shook his head. No, this can't be real. I can't marry someone I just met. I don't know your customs, your world. I don't even know how to say hello in your language. The queen's eyes flashed. Then you will learn. Or you will die. The hall grew colder. John felt trapped, caught in a net he had never seen. He had fought wars, faced monsters, survived battlefields. But nothing had prepared him for this. The queen raised her staff carved with glowing symbols. You will face the trials. If you succeed, you will live as her chosen. If you fail, the jungle will take your body. Trials? John whispered. The princess looked at him with strange softness, but her words brought no comfort. Tests to prove you are worthy, to prove the law has chosen well. The warriors dragged him away before he could protest further. They led him through winding halls, past firelit chambers and pools that glowed with light. Finally, they threw him into a small stone room. The door slammed shut. John sat in the dark, head in his hands. He had come to this world as a lost soldier, searching only for survival. Now he was prisoner to a law older than memory, bound to a woman he did not know, facing trials that might kill him. In the silence, he heard the faintest whisper through the wall. It was Arya. Her voice, soft and clear, reached him. You cannot escape this, not now. Not ever, John closed his eyes. The weight of her words pressed on him, heavier than the jungle, heavier than war. And somewhere deep inside, a question grew. Was this fate? Or a trap he could never break? The cell was dark, but morning finally came. A pale blue light slipped through the cracks in the stone walls. Captain John Hale sat with his back against the wall, exhausted. He had not slept. His mind was too full of chants, of the Queen's words, of the strange law that chained him to a woman he did not know. When the door opened, he tensed. 2 warriors entered, tall and silent, their crystal spears glowing faintly. They motioned for him to follow. John had no choice. They led him into the open air again. The city of Crystal Tower shone brighter in the daylight. Bridges of light stretched like ribbons in the sky, and children with glowing skin watched him with wide, curious eyes. The people whispered as he passed, some in awe, some in anger. Finally, he was brought to a wide courtyard. At its center stood Arya, the princess. She was no longer weak from her injury. She wore silver armor that clung to her like light itself, and her hair fell in dark waves over her shoulders. She looked at him with calm eyes that revealed nothing. John felt out of place, dirty uniform, bruises, dried blood on his skin, standing before her like a man from another age. The Queen's voice echoed from a balcony above. Today begins the first step of the trials. The bond must be tested. You will learn our ways. You will prove you are not only her savior but her equal. John clenched his fists. I never asked for this bond. I never asked to be tested. The Queen's eyes narrowed. You saved her. The law asked for you. The warriors pushed him toward Arya. She lifted a staff of crystal and handed it to him. He took it, unsure. It felt warm, alive, as if it carried a pulse. Come, she said softly. You must learn. For days they trained together. Arya taught him the alien tongue, beginning with simple words. He stumbled, mispronounced, and often made her laugh. But slowly he began to understand. She showed him their greetings, their gestures of respect, their prayers to the stars. Then she taught him combat. The staff could change, become heavy like steel or light as air depending on how it was moved. She fought with grace, faster than any soldier he had known. At first she struck him down easily. But John was a soldier of earth. He learned quickly, adapting with clever tricks. Each evening, exhausted, they sat by the glowing pools of the city. He told her stories of earth, of oceans and skies, of cities filled with towers of glass and steel. She listened with wonder as if he were the one from legend. In return, she told him about her people, about the law of binding older than memory, about how saving the royal blood was seen as destiny, a sign chosen by the universe itself. Her words carried both pride and sadness. Do you believe in this law? John asked one night, his voice quiet. Arya looked into the glowing water, her face soft. I was born with it. I never questioned it. Until now. John felt a strange warmth in his chest at her words. He did not know if it was hope or danger, but not all were happy with his presence. One afternoon during training, another figure entered the courtyard. A tall warrior in dark armor, eyes burning with jealousy. His name was Kael, and he had been promised to Arya before John ever came. You do not belong here, off-worlder, Kael growled. She is not yours. She is mine, John raised his staff. I didn't ask for any of this. Kael's voice was cold. Then you will refuse. You will step aside. But Arya's voice cut sharp like a blade. Enough, the law has spoken. Kael's hands tightened on his spear. His eyes, however, promised only revenge. The days passed. The bond between John and Arya grew stronger, though neither admitted it. They moved in rhythm during training, their strikes and defenses flowing as one. When they spoke, her words grew easier for him to understand, and his clumsy alien tongue began to sound like music. At night, he wondered if the bond was truly law, or if it was something else forming between them. But the city whispered. Whispers turned to doubts, and doubts turned to anger. The people did not all believe in him. Many saw him as an intruder, a shadow over their traditions. They asked why a stranger should be tied to their princess, why the law should choose one not of their blood. The Queen announced the next stage of the trials. John would face Kael, not in training, not in lesson, in combat, before the eyes of the people, to prove if the bond was worthy, or if it was a mistake. That night, John sat in his chamber, staring at the staff Arya had given him. His body ached from training, his mind burned with questions. Arya entered quietly. She looked at him, her eyes soft in the dim light. You do not have to win, she whispered. Only survive. Show them you are strong in your way. John looked at her surprised. And if I don't survive? Her voice trembled, though she tried to hide it. Then the bond is broken. And so am I. For the first time he saw it clearly. Not just duty, not just law. There was something else in her eyes. Something fragile, dangerous, and human, even if she was not of his world. He reached for her hand, hesitating, but she did not pull away. In that silence, the bond grew stronger. Not by law, not by trial, by choice. But outside the chamber, Cale sharpened his blade, whispering to shadows. He would not accept defeat, and the city waited for blood. The day of the duel arrived. The entire city gathered in the great arena, a circle of shining stone carved into the heart of the crystal towers. Thousands of glowing faces watched from the stands, their eyes fixed on the center. This was not a battle of war. This was tradition, law, and pride. At the center stood Cale. His armor was black, edged with sharp silver lines. His spear glowed with deadly light, humming with power. His tall frame cast a shadow long across the arena floor. His eyes never left John. John stood opposite him, holding only the staff Arya had given him. His uniform was torn, his body still bruised from training. He looked out of place, but his eyes were steady. He had fought in wars before. He had seen worse battlefields. But this fight was different. Here, every strike meant not only survival, it meant whether he belonged in this world or not. The queen raised her hand. The arena went silent. The bond must be tested, she said, her voice echoing through the air. By strength, by will, and by fate, the challenger stands against the chosen. Let the trial begin. A loud drum sounded. Cale moved first. He charged with the speed of a storm, his spear cutting the air. John barely blocked with his staff, the impact shaking his arms to the bone. The crowd roared as sparks flew. Cale pressed harder, strike after strike, his movements precise and brutal. John staggered back, defending desperately. He was smaller, weaker. His muscles burned with every block. He knew he could not fight Cale's strength head-on. He remembered Arya's words. Only survive. Show them you are strong in your way. So he stopped fighting like them. He fought like a human soldier. When Cale struck high, John ducked low. When Cale thrust straight, John sidestepped, letting the spear crash into the stone floor. He used the staff not to match strength, but to redirect, to deflect. Slowly, Cale grew frustrated. His strikes became harder, faster, but also careless. The crowd gasped. They had never seen fighting like this, turning strength into weakness, using speed against power. Cale roared and swung wide. John dropped to the ground, rolled under the strike, and swept Cale's legs with his staff. For the first time, the proud warrior hit the floor. The arena erupted in shock. Cale leapt back up, his pride wounded deeper than his body. His eyes blazed with rage. You dare humiliate me before my people? He spat. His spear glowed brighter, as if feeding on his fury. John raised his staff, breathing hard. I didn't come here to humiliate anyone. I didn't even ask for this fight, Cale snarled. But you will end it. With your death. He lunged with terrifying speed. This time John had no space to dodge. The spear tip cut across his arm, burning like fire. Pain shot through him, but he held firm. Cale pressed harder, trying to force him down. John's mind raced. He had one bullet left in his broken rifle back in his chamber. But here, he had only his staff, his instincts, and his will. He remembered every battlefield on Earth, every hopeless fight he had survived. He had always been weaker, outnumbered, outgunned. But he had lived because humans had something no weapon could measure. Stubbornness. He twisted the staff, using Cale's momentum. The spear struck the ground again, stuck for a brief moment. That was enough. John struck Cale across the face, once, twice, a third time. The staff cracked against his armor, against his pride. Cale fell back, bleeding, stunned. The arena froze in silence. Thousands of glowing eyes watched, waiting for the final blow. John stood over him, staff raised. His chest heaved with exhaustion. He could kill Cale now. It would be easy. One strike, one end, but he lowered the staff. No, he said, his voice steady. I won't kill you. I don't need to. The crowd gasped again. Mercy was rare in their world. To spare a rival was almost unthinkable. Yet John had done it without hesitation. Cale's face twisted in shame and fury. He spat blood onto the stone. You think mercy makes you strong? You are a fool, human. A fool who will regret sparing me. The queen rose, her expression unreadable. The trial is ended. The bond stands, the crowd roared, some in approval, some in anger, some in confusion. The law was clear. John had survived, proven himself, and earned his place beside Arya. But in the shadows of the arena, Cale's rage burned. He would not accept defeat. He would not accept mercy. That night, as the city celebrated, he slipped away into the dark halls. There, waiting for him, were figures cloaked in black. Their eyes glowed red, not blue. Enemies of the Queen, enemies of Arya. Kyle knelt before them, his voice cold as steel. "Give me power, and I will give you the human's head." The cloaked figures smiled. That same night, John sat with Arya at the glowing pool. His wounds burned, but his spirit was strong. Arya looked at him with something new in her eyes, something beyond duty, beyond law. "You showed them a different kind of strength today," she whispered. John gave a tired smile. "I just showed them what it means to be human." But far away, Cale's oath to the shadows had already begun a new storm. And soon John would learn that his greatest trial was not the duel, but the war coming from beyond the stars. The city of crystal slept under the silver moon, but peace was only an illusion. In the hidden caves outside the city walls, Cale knelt before the cloaked figures. Their eyes glowed red like burning coals, and their voices whispered like knives in the dark. "You lost the duel," one hissed. "You lost the bond." Cale's fists clenched. "I did not lose. I was humiliated. The human tricked me. He is weak, yet they cheer for him. He does not deserve her. I deserve her." The cloaked leader stepped forward. His cloak parted, revealing armor blacker than the night. Strange markings glowed across his chest. "Then take what you deserve, join us. When we rise against the Queen, the human will fall, and the princess will be yours or ashes." Cale bowed his head. His pride burned hotter than his loyalty. "Give me power, and I will give you victory." The shadows closed around him. Meanwhile, inside the palace, John stood at the balcony of his chamber. The city below glowed like a living jewel. But beyond the towers, the forest was dark and endless. He could not sleep. Arya stood beside him. She had not spoken much since the duel. Now her voice was quiet but sharp. "You showed mercy today." "That is not our way." John glanced at her. "Where I come from, mercy is strength. Killing isn't always victory. Sometimes sparing someone is harder." Arya studied him for a long moment. Her eyes held both respect and worry. "Mercy can be dangerous. Cale will not forget." John sighed. "I know, I saw it in his eyes. He hates me even more now." Arya turned her gaze to the horizon. "And hatred is the seed of war." The next morning, the Queen summoned John to the throne room. The hall was full of counselors, their faces tense, their whispers urgent. The Queen's voice thundered. "The scouts have returned. The Red Empire gathers at our borders. They come with fire and ships of war." John's heart sank. "Red Empire?" Arya answered, her voice heavy. "Our ancient enemy. They have always wanted our city, our crystals, our power. If they attack now with Cale among them—" She stopped, as if speaking his name brought darkness into the room. The Queen's eyes burned. "This is not just war. This is betrayal. Someone inside our walls has guided them." Every counselor turned to John, suspicion sharp in their eyes. Whispers filled the hall. An outsider. A stranger who came from nowhere. A curse brought by fate. John stepped forward, his voice steady. "I am not your enemy. I've fought wars before, on worlds you have never seen. If this empire is coming, I can help you fight them." The Queen's stare pierced him. "You speak as if you are one of us, but you are not." Before John could answer, Arya stepped beside him. Her voice was strong, unshaken. "He may not be one of us, but he is bound to me. By law, his fight is our fight." The hall fell silent. The Queen studied them both for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Very well. The human will stand with us. But if he fails, if his mercy brings ruin, then both bond and life will be broken." That night, John prepared for war. Warriors trained in the courtyards, their crystal weapons glowing like fire. The sound of drums echoed across the city. Children sang prayers to the stars. John checked the broken rifle he had carried since the crash. Only one bullet left. One chance. He strapped it to his back anyway. Arya entered, wearing her silver armor again. She looked ready for battle, but her eyes were softer when they met his. "You are not afraid," she said. John gave a tired smile. "I've been afraid so many times I don't even feel it anymore." She tilted her head. "Is that human strength? To keep standing even when afraid?" He nodded. "Yes, we keep standing, no matter what." Arya's lips curved into the faintest smile. "Then we will stand together." The next dawn, the sky burned red. The enemy fleet appeared on the horizon. Dark ships shaped like blades, cutting through the clouds. Their engines roared like thunder. Fire rained from their cannons, striking the forest, burning trees to ash. The people of the Crystal City gasped in fear. The queen raised her staff, her voice shaking the air. "Stand firm. This is our home." John stood beside Arya at the front lines. Warriors filled the walls, crystal weapons glowing, shields ready. The ground trembled as the first enemy ships descended, unleashing soldiers clad in black armor. The Red Empire had come. The battle began with fire and steel. Crystal spears clashed with dark blades. Explosions shook the towers. Screams filled the air. John fought with the staff Arya had given him, striking fast, using every trick he had learned. He was not the strongest, not the fastest, but he was unpredictable. He fought like a soldier of Earth, and the enemy had never seen anything like it. But in the chaos, he saw him. Kale, the rival warrior, stood among the Red Empire's soldiers. His armor darker, his spear sharper, his eyes burning with hatred. He pointed at John across the battlefield, a promise of blood. John's stomach turned cold. The duel in the arena had been only the beginning. Now the real war had started, and Kale was no longer fighting alone. The ground shook as the Red Empire's army poured into the valley. Their ships hung in the sky like black vultures, casting shadows over the crystal towers. Flames spread through the forest, smoke turning the sky red. The people of the Crystal City stood on their walls, spears of light raised, voices chanting in defiance. But fear was heavy in their hearts. This was not just another raid. This was war. At the front stood Captain John Hale. His uniform was torn, his face marked by bruises, but his eyes were sharp. Beside him stood Arya, silver armor glowing, her staff ready. She looked like a star fallen to earth. Together they faced the storm. The first wave struck. Red soldiers charged, their blades burning with fire. The city warriors met them with crystal spears. The clash was like thunder. Stone cracked, blood spilled, screams filled the air. John fought with everything he had learned. His staff spun fast, blocking blows, striking at weak points. He ducked under heavy strikes, turned enemies' weight against them, and used speed instead of strength. Alien soldiers fell one after another, shocked by his strange fighting style. Arya fought like fire itself. Her staff moved in glowing arcs, each strike breaking armor, each step flowing with grace. She and John fought back to back, their movements almost one rhythm. When he stumbled, she struck to protect him. When she faltered, he shielded her, but the enemy did not stop. More ships landed. More soldiers poured in. The ground trembled under their numbers. From the smoke, Kale appeared. He was no longer just a rival warrior. His armor was now marked with the symbols of the Red Empire, glowing with stolen power. His eyes burned like coals filled with rage. In his hand, he carried a spear sharper and darker than before. He pointed it at John. "This ends today, human." The battlefield seemed to pause. Warriors on both sides turned to watch. The duel that had once shaken the arena was about to happen again, but this time not for honor. This time for war. Kale charged. John braced himself. Their weapons clashed with a sound like thunder. The impact shook his bones. Kale was stronger than before, faster too. Dark energy pulsed through his strikes. John staggered, blocking desperately. Each blow pushed him back, his arms screaming with pain. Kale's voice was a snarl. "You should have killed me when you had the chance. Mercy is weakness." John gritted his teeth. "Mercy is what makes me human." He dodged left, swung right, but Kale was relentless. The spear cut his side, burning like fire. He gasped, blood staining his uniform. Kale grinned. "Look at you. Weak, fragile. You will die, and she will be mine." Arya's voice rang out sharp. "No, Kale, I choose him." Her staff struck, blocking Kale's next attack. She fought beside John, their weapons clashing against Kale's fury. Together they forced him back, but he roared and unleashed a surge of dark power, knocking them both to the ground. The Red Empire's soldiers cheered. The city's warriors cried out in despair. John lay on the stone, chest burning, vision blurred. Kale raised his spear for the final strike. Then John remembered. The rifle on his back. One bullet. One chance. Slowly, painfully, he pulled it free. Kale laughed. "That broken toy? It will not save you." John aimed, his hands shaking. "It only needs to save me once." The shot cracked through the battlefield. The bullet struck Kale's spear, shattering its dark glow. Sparks exploded, and the weapon fell in pieces. The crowd gasped. John forced himself to his feet, gripping his staff. With all his strength, he struck Kyle across the chest. The rival warrior fell hard to the ground, his armor cracked, his pride broken once more. But John did not finish him. He lowered his weapon. "No," he said, breathless. "Killing you won't end this war. The real enemy is the empire you serve." The battlefield went silent again. Soldiers stared, stunned by his words. Even some of the Red Empire's warriors hesitated, doubt flickering in their eyes. But the moment broke as horns blared from the enemy ships. A second wave was coming, bigger, stronger. The Queen's voice thundered across the city walls. "Hold the line. The fight is not done." John and Arya stood together, battered but unbroken. They looked at the sky, where the enemy fleet descended like fire. John tightened his grip on the staff. His bullet was gone. His body was weak, but his spirit burned stronger than ever. He turned to Arya. "If this is the end, then we face it together." Arya's eyes shone with fierce light. Together. The battlefield shook as the enemy advanced again. The war was far from over, and in the chaos, Cale crawled into the shadows, his hatred deeper than before. His fall had not ended his vengeance. It had only made it darker. The battlefield burned. Crystal towers glowed with cracks of fire. Smoke covered the sky, turning day into night. Screams of warriors, clash of weapons, and the roar of enemy ships filled the air. The Red Empire pressed harder with every wave. Captain John Hale fought until his arms felt like stone. His staff was broken in half. His body bled from cuts and burns, but still he stood beside Arya. Their eyes met often, silent words of strength passing between them. Then the ground shook. A giant ship descended into the city, black and sharp like a dagger cutting the sky. From its belly poured more soldiers in dark armor. The Queen's warriors fell back. The people screamed. John and Arya tried to push forward, but a blast of red energy struck near them. The shockwave threw John across the courtyard. His head slammed against stone. Darkness swallowed him. When he woke, his wrists were bound with glowing chains. The air smelled of metal and smoke. He was inside the enemy ship. Before him stood Cale. His armor was cracked, but his eyes burned with hatred. Behind him were Red Empire generals, cloaked in fire-colored robes. Cale leaned close. "You fought well, human, but now you will learn what mercy costs. You spared me, and because of that your city burns," John glared. "It's not my city." A general stepped forward, his voice like a blade. "But it will be if you choose wisely." John frowned. "Choose?" The general's eyes gleamed. "You do not belong to them. You are not one of them. We will let you live, even give you passage home if you renounce the bond. Deny the princess. Walk away and you will be free." John's heart pounded. The offer cut deep. A way out, a way back to Earth. No more trials, no more alien laws, no more war that wasn't his. But then he saw Arya in his mind, her eyes steady in battle, her voice soft at night, her hand reaching for his. He remembered the bond, not just of law, but of choice. He looked at Cale, then at the generals. His voice was steady. "You want me to betray her? To betray them? But I won't." Kyle's face twisted. "Why? She is not even human." John's eyes blazed. "Because she is more human than you'll ever be." The generals hissed in anger. Cal raised his spear, ready to strike. But in that moment, the ship shook violently. Explosions roared outside. Arya had come. The ship's walls split as crystal warriors stormed inside, their weapons glowing. At their front was Arya, her silver armor shining through smoke and fire. She fought like a storm, cutting through soldiers, her eyes fixed on John. Cale roared and charged at her. Their weapons clashed, sparks flying. Arya's strikes were fierce, fueled by rage and love. Cale was stronger, but she was faster. Meanwhile, John strained against his chains. The glow cut his skin, but he pulled with all his strength. With a final cry, the chain snapped. He staggered up, grabbed a fallen blade, and ran to Arya's side. Together, they faced Cale one last time. The duel was brutal. Cale's strikes shook the ground. John blocked with raw desperation, while Arya struck with precision. Blow after blow, they forced him back. Finally, John saw the opening. He swung hard, knocking Cale's spear away. Arya spun and struck, her staff smashing across Cale's chest. The rival warrior fell to his knees, broken, defeated. John stood over him, weapon raised. The memory of their first duel flashed in his mind when he had spared Cale. He hesitated, but Arya's voice was steady. "This war must end." John's eyes hardened. This time, mercy would not save Cale. With one final strike, he ended it. The Red Empire forces faltered as their champion fell. The Queen's warriors surged forward, pushing them back. The enemy ships, broken and burning, fled into the sky. The city stood battered but not defeated. When the battle was over, the Queen stepped into the courtyard, her staff glowing with power. Her gaze fell on John. "You were offered freedom. Yet you chose us, why?" John's chest rose and fell with exhaustion, but his voice was clear. "Because freedom means nothing if you abandon those who stand with you." The Queen's sharp eyes softened for the first time. She lifted her staff high. "Then you are no longer outsider. You are one of us." The people cheered, their voices rising like thunder. Arya stepped closer to John. Her hand touched his, not as duty, but as choice. Her eyes held warmth, fierce and fragile at once. "You did not just save me," she whispered. "You saved us all." John looked at her, a tired smile breaking through the blood and dust. "Guess I'm stuck with you then." Arya's lips curved into a small smile. "Not stuck. Chosen." That night, under the stars, the city lit its towers with fire. Songs of victory echoed through the streets. Children laughed, warriors celebrated, and for the first time since his crash, John felt like he belonged. He was no longer just a soldier from Earth, no longer just a survivor. He was bound, not by law, not by chains, but by choice, by love. And in the silence of the night, as the fires glowed and the stars watched above, Captain John Hale realized the truth. Sometimes, humanity's greatest power is not strength. It is the courage to choose.